Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. 32 teams, 32 days in the NFL. The focus is the Cleveland Browns. Let's get to it. I don't think that there's a bigger hype train right now in the NFL than that of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns, who decide to keep their interim head coach and Freddie Kitchens. And if memory serves me correctly, the last time the Cleveland Browns decided to keep an interim head coach was one Marty Schottenheimer, who went to 3 AFC championship games in 4 years. And I really believe that if it hadn't been for a guy named John Elway, those first 2 seasons, Cleveland could have gone to the Super Bowl. They would have played the Giants and Washington. And I really believe that they would have won one of those 2 games. I definitely think that they could have been very competitive, and it may have been an all-time great Super Bowl had they played against the New York Giants instead of the Denver Broncos. And that is coming from a diehard Broncos fan. Regardless, last year, Baker Mayfield, what does he do? Well, he just comes in, few games into the year, sets the rookie record for touchdown passes in a season. That's the reason why the hype train is real. Players say that other players love playing with him. They love his fiery attitude, his competitive nature, his leadership. But as I made mention of already with Baker Mayfield, I like his approach to the game of football. I'm just not sure that I always like the way that he goes about it, right? Duke Johnson wanted to trade. Baker Mayfield drawing a line in the sand. You're on this train or you're not. Vocalizing that out to the public, not so much. I'm not with that. Going to Duke Johnson and saying, why do you want to trade? What can we do as a team? What can I do as a player? Why do you want to leave? Why are you not happy here? Let's talk this thing through. Again, handling things internally is something that just doesn't seem to happen anymore in the NFL with a lot of teams. Again, the best kept secrets in all of football are with the New England Patriots, who I think should be the example of what that goes. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, come on, all this stuff came out of the woodwork. I'd take a look at Josh McDaniels as a perfect example. Right? To this day, we have no idea why he chose not to take that position with the Colts. Right? They had a media press release already for him. He doesn't even bother to show up. The word was he walked into the Patriots facility. He walked out deciding that he was going to stay with the Patriots. We have no clue as to why, and we will probably never know. Look, there's a lot of hype around this offense, obviously, especially with the acquisition of one Odell Beckham Jr., and I can understand that. He's reunited with Jarvis Landry. The talk about it has been ad nauseum at this point. You still have Nick Chubb. Not going to see Kareem Hunt for, 8 weeks due to the suspension for off-the-field issues. Defensively is where I'm looking at this football team. A team that ranked 30th in the NFL last year and gave up 135 yards a game on the ground. I think there was only, 4 teams in the NFL last year that had a worse running defense than the Cleveland Browns. I mean, is that really what they want to do, is just basically try and run up the score and hope that the defense can hold a team to maybe 30 and you can get 35 out of it? I mean, I don't remember the NFL or football in general being that way at all. It used to be, let's run it up on offense, and on defense, let's shut them down and hold them to nothing if we can. Now, I'm not saying that that's the point of any team going in, but when you look at this team and you look at how it's made up and you look at what they decided to do in the draft, right? They drafted a couple of wide receivers, but they did go out and get Greedy Williams, cornerback, right? They did go out and get a couple of linebackers, right? Sion Takatiki, right? Mac Wilson, a couple of linebackers. It's obviously where they felt they probably needed the most improvement on defense. But regardless, that's where I'm looking for this football team to show some improvement. Look, the schedule this year is not going to be easy for the Cleveland Browns. And so if I am Cleveland Brown fan, I am worried about my defense because I've got to see the New England Patriots. I've got to see the Rams. I've got to see the Seahawks. 2 times I am going to see the Ravens and Steelers. So yes, defensively, I am very concerned about this football team. I also think that they're going to be at Denver, if I remember correctly. They're going to face a Bills defense who, by the way, I think ranked second, third last year in the NFL, if I remember correctly. And you always come across that team that regardless of how bad or how good they are, they always sort of know how to play against you, right? We've seen this before where these teams will go like 11-0 and then they'll face some 1-10 football team who completely shuts them down and just their coach knows exactly how to dominate you. And then it seems like when that one game comes out, one of two things happen. You either sort of falter from there because everybody kind of begins to follow a similar game plan, or your coaching staff is good enough to make adjustments so that way when they see those similarities, you don't get shut down like that again. Now, look, obviously, I think Freddie Kitchens was a huge reason why the Cleveland Browns got that lift last season. And I don't really think that he's getting enough credit for how good that football team was in the latter part of the year. But they still weren't great. Still didn't finish with a winning record. Still weren't able to get to the playoffs. Do I like what I've seen so far from Baker Mayfield? Absolutely. But that's just so far. We don't know how far he can or can't go. We've seen this before where athletes, regardless of what position that they are, sort of peak really early, right? Reggie Bush kind of had that stigma on him, even though he had a couple of good seasons with the Miami Dolphins. That first year, remember John Madden saying Reggie Bush is making the NFL look really easy after that, kind of mundane until he got to the Dolphins. Consistency is the key in any sport. It's all about rhythm and timing, right? And I worry about the interjection of Kareem Hunt so late into the season. Because right around week 8 or 9, October, November, that's when you start to really hit your stride as a football team. That's when we truly find out who you are. I've always said that the first 4 games in the NFL begin to dictate who you are. And by that 5th or 6th game, we pretty much know exactly who you are. Now, over the years, we've seen, obviously, some topsy-turvy play in the NFL, especially in the AFC over the last couple of years. We've seen teams go from 1-4 to 6-5 all of a sudden and make a playoff run, just kind of go back and forth. We've seen that with the Raiders, with the Texans, a couple of other teams, the Colts. But with this schedule, I would want my defense to pick up early because they're going to be young. I want my defense to pick up early and often, and I need them to gain some confidence early in the season, especially against some of these better teams, because I believe they're going to face Seattle in September, right? You've got the Rams. They were one of the most prolific offenses in all of the NFL last year. I believe they ranked second, if I remember correctly. Todd Gurley, to me, the big reason behind that. That's what I'm looking to if I'm a Cleveland Brown fan. I'm not necessarily worried about my offense. Obviously, you don't want anybody to get hurt, which is always a possibility. Team starts getting the injury bug, right? We've already seen it with the New York Giants before the season even started. Can the Browns win 10, 11, 12 games like people have been saying? With a defense like that, it's going to be really difficult to sustain in the NFL for an entire season, let alone the playoffs. Your defense is going to have to pick up, get some turnovers, and create early opportunities for your offense to take control of any football game. Guys, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan83. You can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And, as always, don't you dare touch that dial.